You are listening to Miner Metrics. I'm your host, Chris Mellon. This show is powered by a script written by LockFox at Eve Prosper. This content is aimed at players participating in the mining profession and is provided nightly to give you, dear listener, the information you need to sell your product at the right price. Starting off with Tritanium on the yearly graph, we see the capital mining crash and recovery. Zooming into 90 days, we can see our growth has stalled out and our price is hovering at about 4.2. Looking at the RSI, we can see that we have returned to 50%. This is probably the turning point in growth before the supply glut moves through the market and we go sub 4. If you still wanted to liquidate Tritanium, this is your last chance without waiting through the plunge and selling on the other side of it. I do believe that if you can, it is still wise to wait out this dip, as I think we'll settle at a 4.5 price in the recovery. Next up is Pyrite with the same crash recovery pattern. Zooming into 90 days, we can see we're in a steady decline in price with our RSI at 45. Pyrite has the same fundamental problem that Tritanium has and will be bouncing off the 30% RSI line soon in the future. This price has already become undervalued and needs to be held until the recovery comes. Continuing with Mexilon, we can see our price is at a peak, but zooming in, our price has started to move off this peak slowly. I've said for a while that this amazing Mexilon price couldn't go on forever, and sure enough, we've hit the period where our price is heading towards a slump. If you haven't sold off your Mexilon, I think you'll have to watch for a short-term window to get out. You now need a bit of upward volatility to match previous highs. Just be sure to get out soon. The price does have further to fall. Isogen is following a similar pattern to Tritanium and other minerals affected by Rorquals. Zooming in, we can see that our recovery is basically non-existent. I think the only smart move is to wait for the price to rebound off the coming crash. As it is now, you wouldn't be able to make out as well if you held on for 2 months or so. Noxium is fitting our capital mining pattern, and looking at the yearly graph, we can see that this rebound is quite drastic. Zooming in, we can see we're holding steady at 360. I believe this is the new sell range for Noxium, and I recommend liquidating before the price heads further down. Next up is Zydrene with a lot of play in the early year. Zooming in, we can see that we've stalled out near the bottom of the trough, and that this is what a steady stall out looks like. We're going to stay here for a while, but I don't think the price will head much lower. I recommend holding on to Zydrene and wait for a price hike. For the last of our regular minerals, we have Megasite. Megasite's graph is behaving a lot like Zydrene, but we haven't hit the trough yet. That means that our price has further to fall before we level out. Zooming in, we can see why I would recommend waiting for some upward volatility to get out of this market, but it's important that you do so soon. Lastly, we have Morphite with an uninteresting yearly graph, but zooming in we can see we've returned to a respectable trading price. This movement has been very rapid, and I would be cautious in terms of volume, but I think it's safe to trade again. If you're playing the long game, you'll want to wait for some sort of major war, but who knows how long that will take. This has been Chris Mellon for Miner Metrics. That'll do it for the show. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to check tomorrow for another episode.